When you first start CBTi, probably you're going to go into it very guarded. I know certainly I did. So when I first started my treatment, I'd done so much stuff in the past. So I'd done the kiwi fruits, I'd done the meditation, I'd done acupuncture. I'd moved to America once to live in a teepee tent because I slept well once in the UK in a tent. Of course, it didn't work, but that's kind of how obsessive I got with it. And kind of when I first started CBTi, I knew it was different from the things I'd read about it, but I had zero confidence that it was going to work. I suppose not zero, I had enough confidence to give it a try, so my confidence was not high. And I thought, well, if this is what is known as the gold standard treatment, and this doesn't work, and I've tried that, then I'm going to feel even worse if it doesn't work, and I wish I'd never done it in the first place. And so, luckily for me, I had an absolutely amazing, incredible person helping me overcome my insomnia. Kind, supportive, who really understood what insomnia is. And this is what gives you the confidence when you first start. Actually speaking to someone that really, truly, deeply understands the true nature of insomnia. The obsession, the fear, the control, the fear in going to bed at night time. Not wanting to book a holiday with your partner because you just terrified of staying in a hotel. Cancelling all the things and stripping all the things that you love from your life. Someone that really deeply understands what insomnia truly is. If you speak to that person for the first time in your life, and someone who really understands you, that's when the magic starts to happen. And good CBTi, when I did my program, it wasn't what I expected. I kind of expected therapy. I expected them to kind of go through the trigger and unpick the trigger of my insomnia. But if you've been on this channel for a while, you know the trigger doesn't matter. I was expecting them to give me a little kind of tips and tricks that I might do to improve my sleep. But that isn't what happened either. So what I got on my first session was kind of that sleep knowledge, stuff that I talk about on this channel all the time. The body clock. How the sleep drive is the only thing that makes you sleep, how fight or flight, that wolf in your bedroom, the anxiety and stress, the worry is something that can mask your sleep drive. How by regulating your body clock and your sleep drive, you can rebuild your pattern of sleep. How insomnia is a pattern, an unhelpful pattern of sleep the brain has taken on. And it's the fight or flight, it's the hyperarousal, it's the obsession, the control, the fear, the worry. How the sleep debt myth is a complete nonsense, how you don't need 8 hours of sleep. Essentially, probably if it's good CBTi that you're going to start, it will start with sleep knowledge. And I say if it's good CBTi because there's a lot of CBTi out there, and a lot of it is very controlling, it's very strict, and it just reinforces the obsession, the fear, the worry, the control around insomnia. If it's just sleep restriction and very strict stimulus control, and it doesn't tackle the other 90% of what insomnia is, which is the thoughts patterns, the anxiety, the fear, the worry, then it's not going to be something that is going to help you because it doesn't get to the root cause of what insomnia is. But I was so lucky with my program. And hopefully when you're on my videos, you think, okay, actually someone does get me and does understand what insomnia is. And that's what I hope to do for this channel. Why it doesn't get more views? I don't know. But I did another video about acceptance. So accepting the fact that I'm only ever going to get the 500 views on my channel is, if I did tips and tricks and hacks and rubbing magnesium into your feet, then maybe I'll get more views, but I'm not going to do that. But anyway, I digress. Sleep knowledge is incredibly important. Well, what you'll find when you first start the behavioural changes, if you know this channel, you'll know what those are. The 2 core behavioural changes of CBTi. Bedtime restriction, what I use something which you can do faster and quicker, which is sleep windows where you can start them right away, and either counter control or stimulus control, where when you're in bed and you're lying there, fighting, forcing, pleading with sleep, you just do anything to break that cycle, like watching TV or reading a book. I'm not going to go into that here. All of actually how to do CBTIs on the rest of my channel. This is more about how you're going to experience it. But during the first certainly when you first start it, you first start these behavioral changes, you're so desperate for wanting them to work. So when I went into it, I was desperate for them to work because I just wanted to see some kind of light, to see that this was tangible. And I didn't see that for the first 5 days. So I reduced my amount of time in bed to, I believe, about 6 hours. And I was convinced that wasn't going to work because it felt like I was sleeping for only 3 hours per night before that. So I thought, no, 6 hours isn't going to work, but I'll try it anyway. I'll do what you've said. And before that, I was literally spending 12 to 14 hours in bed. And so I spent 6 hours in bed. And for the first 5 nights, I didn't really see any changes. And those were really, really hard to put kind of this effort in and not see results. And it was the 5th night, I believe, but I actually got something physical and tangible where for the first time I was starting to feel sleepy during the daytime. And I was looking forward to going to bed at night. And for the first time I actually went to bed, my head hit the pillow and I was out like that. Hey everyone, 15 seconds. If you're finally ready to be free of your insomnia, I offer online consultations to people from all over the world. I've also got a step-by-step program, videos, audio books, personalized support from me, a wonderful supportive community, tons of other things I've got on offer as well to help you. All on my website, sleepc.com. Check it out. And that usual kind of fear and anxiety about going to bed at night times just simply was not there. I'm going to take you guys to a different part of the house because the cicadas are starting to scream and shout, and the light is getting a bit dim because we're getting into the evening. So I'll take you over here. But yeah, well, that's the view of where we've got. Our section. Hey, little fat selby dog there, Charlie. One section. Right. So you'll find that when you first start this, you'll kind of, I found that, confidence was incredibly. So it was the 5th night that I actually saw something tangible, and I was actually looking forward to going to bed. And when I head hit the pillow, I was out like that. And it's when you get that first glimmer of hope, that is when the magic really starts to happen, because you're not cured. You're certainly not cured. But for the first time in your life, you've actually realized, my goodness, I went to bed, and instead of the usual rituals that I thought I had to do in order to try and sleep, instead of the usual sleep Russian roulette, I actually was looking forward to going to bed. And everything that I told was happen did actually happen on that one night. And I think this is where things start to improve. But it's important to know when you first start CBTi, especially the first 2 weeks, you do not get linear progress. And something that when I'm working with clients, I call it the yo-yo phase, where it's kind of like up and down. This is, I think, what people experience, certainly in the first 2 weeks. You get good nights, you get bad nights. And what you get is the good nights are very, very good. You feel very high and you feel very elated after them, because oh my goodness, I'm actually getting out of this and I'm actually kind of escaping this. And the bad nights are incredibly crushing because you kind of think, it stopped working, or it's not doing it anymore. And I think just that understanding that when you first start these behavioural changes, you're never going to get this linear progress out of this, and you will be hyper attached to the outcome. You'll be desperate to see results, and you'll be so happy when they come, and you'll be crushed when you don't get them. So it is so hard to do, but if you can kind of step back from it and just realize that you kind of almost go into robot mode with your first 2 weeks of CBT. I go, look, I'm going to put these behavioural changes in place, and I'm going to try as best I can not to hyper-analyze and not to hyper-obsess. And it's impossible to do, all the people I work with, the first 2 week hyper-analysis of these first 2 weeks, nothing feels natural, everything feels forced. I think really in the first 2 weeks, they are the hardest weeks for most people. It's just about actually putting these behaviorals and habit changes in place. Again, I'm not going to go into them, bedtime restriction, counter control, stimulus control, getting stuck into your days again. There are other things, but I've got all my other videos on what these things actually are. But just understanding that it's not going to be a linear progress out of it, and it is going to be a hard thing for you to do, and you will have moments where you kind of doubt yourself, and you will have moments which are incredibly hard. But hopefully you will see some changes starting to happen. And I think when it's very important to focus on, especially in your first 2 weeks, is to kind of reevaluate what a win is. And a win when it comes to your sleep weirdly isn't a great night of sleep. If you can kind of respond to a poor night of sleep better, or, I used to feel absolutely dreadful when I have a poor night's sleep, and now I'm responding slightly better and slightly more neutral. And my obsession about sleep during the daytime, now I'm only thinking about it 50 minutes during the hour. I used to think about it 60 minutes during an hour. That is progress, that is improvement. So just understanding that, because if you kind of start CBTi and think that it's going to improve from day one and get better and better and better, and you'll get this linear progress out of it, that is never the case. I would say, certainly in my own experience with CBTi, it wasn't until about maybe week 4 or 5 that things started to get a little bit more smooth, and these ups and downs, they are certainly to be expected. The yo-yo phase, you will get the yo-yo phase when you first start CBTi, and just kind of expecting that and knowing that's what you're going to get is going to be incredibly helpful to you. So really, that is what the first 2 weeks are. Hopefully you're going to start feeling that your sleep triad is improving, that your sleepy feeling starts building during the daytime, and you will feel like you're going through the motions. A big part of sleep retraining is to start doing more things during the daytime, so that you're not shying away from your insomnia, from you're not allowing it to push you around. And you'll find that that's a very hard thing to do, to go against everything your brain is telling you, because when you've got insomnia and you haven't slept well, the brain tells you do far, far, far less, whereas sleep retraining tells you to do more, or at least take on slightly more than what you would have done in the past. So you're essentially going against all the habits and the behaviors that you've been doing when you've had insomnia, and changing the habits is an incredibly hard thing to do. And I think if I can kind of impart probably the most important piece of advice, it's that, yes, it works. It's never linear. It's never straightforward. You do hopefully start seeing some changes, but it's probably not going to be, fireworks and circuses. That's not, I'm not going to reuse that analogy. It's not going to be fireworks and trumpets and wondrousness straight away, but there'd be glimmers of hope, and there'd be crushing lows and bad dust. And again, my favorite quote, suffering is asking from life what it can never give you. And if you go into these quite hard behavioral changes, expecting them to not be ups and downs and not be tricky and not be this kind of mental battle where you overanalyze, you over-obsess, then you're going to find your CBTi treatment incredibly difficult. So, yeah. But I will say that it's life-changing when you actually get out of your insomnia. I wouldn't be doing what I do today if it wasn't actually, I couldn't be helping people sleep if I hadn't overcome my own insomnia. And yeah, it's everything that insomnia is, the guilt, the shame, the suffering. This is how you get out of it. Consistent behavioral changes, patience, self-kindness. Again, like I always say, like we're building muscle with diet. It comes through repetition, consistency, patience, kindness, and this is what good CBTi will. Well, I don't even call my work CBTi really anymore, because I blend so many other things in it. But yeah, this is how you get out of it. As a little sales pitch, you want to work with me one-to-one with your sleep, or you want someone to chat to make things easy for you, contact me via Zoom. You can do that. Or email me, sorry. But yeah, hope this video has been helpful to you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.